Welcome to episode 14 of the Same 60 Pokemon podcast. I'm Jeffrey, JGB 146 Blake.
And I'm Nate, Sky Circus TCG.
And today, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened in Dortmund. Because, oh my gosh, I did not think Chen Pao was going to get that far in any event ever. And I did not think Chen Pao was even going to beat, after the way Game 1 went, where they just got completely shut down by one Greninja play when Goldingo was able to get that off in the start. I didn't think that Chen Pao was even going to be able to win like a game. And then suddenly Game 2, they're like dominating. I'm like, okay, well, they got to choose whether they went first or second. And then Game 3 happens and it's, yeah, unexpected results. I didn't expect to see Goldingo go that far either.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, Chen Pao? Golden Go?
Neither, like, those are both decks that I expect, okay, we might see one in, like, the top 32. Not winning the freaking event.
Oh, yeah.
But it was impressive, and it was some good play.
Yeah, seeing both Tina and Radiant Zard in top 4, I was expecting either one of those to, come on top since they have better matchups into the finalists. Yeah. But I guess we were proven wrong.
Definitely, yeah. It was very, very unexpected, very out of left field. But, I mean, we've been saying all along that the current meta is wide open and, like, anything can win if it's just piloted well. And I will say that I think both of the finalists piloted their decks really well.
Oh, yeah.
There were plays. Actually, I don't know if I was playing someone on the same team as the backs player, but I definitely played against a similar list on PTCGO Live or PTCG Live or whatever. I don't know. We'll just say on live. And I was playing Miraidon at the time. I was working on my how to play Miraidon series because I was trying to get geared up for another video. But anyway, I don't know if that's going to ever see the light of day, but if it does, that's where it came from. But anyway, they were trying to, like, they were setting up to do the Greninja takes 4 prizes play. So, like, I think I was slightly more aware of that than, like, the average player, because I had it pulled on me. But I managed to make them quit, because they set it up, and then I'm like, okay, this is going to cause me problems. Let's force Sealstone for a Bravery Charm to put onto the Squawk.
No, I'm sure switch carts. I mean, I don't think Rhydon really plays switch cart anymore, right?
It depends on the list. I don't remember which list I was playing at the time, honestly.
I was like, I can see switch cart being a thing too.
For sure. And I mean that helps out for other decks too. Like, there's a number of different ways you can, like, get around it, but it's still a powerful play.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we saw that in the finals of Game 1.
Yeah,
it's just the Greninja play, and they can ruin some board state.
Yep, definitely. Okay. Well, is there anything else from the event that you want to discuss?
I did see that Guardy had a breaking from going into Knoxville and going to this event. 3 made top 8, but then they all lost in top 8.
Bear in mind, though, Nate, this was Europe. Europe plays Guardy in much heavier forces, much higher amounts than we are over here at this point. I think, like, Guardy is kind of a deck where it's like no one's really talking about it as being a good play anymore, but there's nothing wrong with it. Like, yeah, Iron Hands makes it not as completely eat Miraidon's lunch, and Iron Hands is played in a smattering of other decks, but Guardy's still fine. It's still a decent play. And in Europe, they have latched onto it, like I say, more than we have here.
I was going to the Guardy players that topped are from not Europe.
Touche.
So Gabriel Smart is from the U.S.
Yeah.
Rowan from the Canada, and then James Cox, pretty good card 4 player from Australia.
Yeah. Okay. You're right, but I stand by my statement that Europe plays way more Guardy than we do here.
I'm just surprised Mew didn't win.
They couldn't let it happen twice in a row.
Oh well.
People finally text from you over there.
Let's go.
So, speaking of big tournaments, and this was another pretty big tournament, um, we're going to have another huge tournament coming about real soon. This coming weekend, actually, we have a Champions League event over in Japan. And the thing about this that makes it interesting, at least in my eyes, is that this Champions League event, which they tend to get around like 3,000 players, so it's a good way to see how things are doing in an upcoming meta that Japan gets, and has before us. It's not written in stone by any means, but lots of things get uncovered during these big events. And so this is going to be the first like big post-rotation tournament with, I think, most of, if not all of the cards that we're going to see in our Temporal Forces set come March.
I believe it's going to involve the cards from Cyber Judge and the Ancient Forest. The crazy name set.
Yeah.
That involved all the new Ancient cards.
Yeah. I can't remember if there's anything else that's getting lumped into our Temporal Forces set alongside those two.
I haven't heard really much anything. I think it might just be those two.
Okay. Makes sense, since we did just get the Paldean Fates that groups some other stuff Japan had, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to see. And like we frequently do with big noteworthy tournaments, Nate and I have made some predictions. But before we talk about them, we need to talk to you just about how the meta in Japan has gone so far. So we've got this handy-dandy, pretty little chart that comes to us courtesy of Omnipoke, I think. I think that's what you told me, right, Nate?
Yeah, I found it on Twitter. And it's a very good resource for Pokemon needs or trading card needs.
So I'm going to drag it over onto the screen here. Oh, it's covering your face.
Oh no.
Okay, so we have S tier and then A, B, C, D. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm seeing here is that they're basically organized into tiers based on how the decks have finished in Japan. Sort of, Omnipoke likes to do a thing where they compute the CP that a deck would have gained in the tournaments it's been played in if it were played in a system where there was CP. Because they have their own qualification metrics over in Japan, and they don't do CP the way we do at all. But
I would assume that these are probably just not like how many most winning like lists, but like most top placements.
Well, right, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying too. I guess like because I've watched some of Omnipoke's videos when they put this information, like this type of information together, and what they do is they literally go, okay, in this tournament that's the size of a cup, this deck, like in these cup level tournaments, this deck won this many and got this many seconds and this many top fours. So it's the equivalent of having it have won 1200 CP. And then they do that for like the different weeks that go by as plays happen throughout Japan. And what they've computed is that the CP from Charizard to Bibarel is equivalent to roughly 9,304, which stands out well above any of the other decks and puts it in what they're calling the S tier for the upcoming format.
I like that.
You go.
Sorry about that.
No, go.
I like how like he also contributes like the A specs and which one is used per archetype, and not seeing that the tool card is not used as often instead of the dust card.
Yeah, so I guess that's worth mentioning too, specifically that this is playing Prime Catcher as the A spec, and then we go into the A tier, and we see the second highest CP equivalent earner is actually Chin Pao Back's Caliber, also playing the Prime Catcher Ace Spec.
I can see that.
I mean, after last weekend, I could see it too. Before that, I don't know. I might have had a hard time.
I mean, going into all these Charizard decks into this format, I believe Chimpao has a pretty good matchup.
Sure. Also, with Path to the Peak leaving the format, like that opens the door for so much more play from both Charizard and Chin Pao and a few other decks, which is probably part of why we see Charizard again at number 3. Charizard Pidgeot with the belt, the 50 damage buff belt, instead of the Prime Catcher.
Because usually this is more of a build for like Arven, so
Mm-hmm.
it's more more pivotal to get like cards out of your deck instead of just throwing into them randomly.
Sure. And you can use Pidgeot to get your boss's orders or counter catchers or whatever exactly when you need it. You can also Arben and get a counter catcher and the damage buff tool. And that 50 extra damage on a Charizard means that instead of starting at 180, you'd be starting at 230, which is a much better number. You can take out a lot of meaningful Pokemon at that point instead of having to rely on gusting up a Squawk. But and then the
It,
bigger numbers matter big too.
it's an easy option for early game, like knocking out a Chimpao or a Roaring Moon,
Mm-hmm.
because there are so
Or
many
even Iron
cases.
Hands.
Oh, that too. There's like so many cases where you just can't, and they just take the two prize lead, and you don't.
Yeah. And then now this one, I would almost say comes out of the blue because it hasn't done anything over here. But with Path to the Peak, and in fact, we'll circle back to that. But it's Arceus Giratina playing the damage belt. So not Lost Giratina. You didn't mishear me. Arceus Giratina. And I think that part of that comes from the fact that Giratina now can do up to 330 damage with this belt. So you're not having to rely on Giratina's V-Star attack to get those big knockouts necessarily anymore. And that improves your consistency. Path is no longer there to keep you from being able to use your Arceus V-Star to get the perfect setup. So I think that all kind of flows together to make this the superior way to play Giratina in the upcoming meta. And then we get a new deck. First new deck to really talk about. I mean, I guess technically Charizard Bibarel is sort of new in that it's definitely going to be structured differently than how we've played things over here. But it's not that new. There have been that's like the Evozard way of playing it, and it's been around. But no, this is entirely new. It's the Ancient Pokemon box. Is this pretty much just single prize Ancient Pokemon, or do you know?
But there was some like builds that had a one of Roaring Moon EX for like the to get rid of the big HP
Mm-hmm.
of Pokemon. Because I'm sure there's times where you can't hit the biggest of numbers, but with Roaring Moon you can.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, and this one's actually playing the Ancient Drawing Ace spec that lets you draw a card for each Ancient Pokemon that you have in play. So, getting that little buff there to help keep your hand flowing. Then we see another blast from the past. Lugia starts. So those were all A tier, but knocking pretty heavy on the door to A tier. We'll call it B plus tier in my mind. Is Lugia Archeops with Master Ball as the ace spec. So I'm curious what some of the other attackers they have in there are, but I haven't looked into it. Have you?
I have a little bit. I know that the Master Ball is really for consistency.
Okay. Is it the Chinchino? Do they have that mixed in?
Usually I see more like one of the V's with like Weird Ear, and I've seen a lot of I want to say Cobalion that does extra damage to Dark type Pokemon.
Well, that's not an attacker though. That's just a tech to help out the Charizard match. I know.
But I'm seeing a lot more like Snorlax though, for post rotation.
Okay. I know they've now received. We don't have it yet, but a new Chinchino line that can hit. I forget what the exact attack is, but I know it can hit 280 So add in, other stuff, and you can hit big numbers, and it's a single prizer. I know Chip's actually talked about it some on the Uncommon Energy podcast, that he thinks that may be a play coming around the bend. So maybe some of them mix it in, maybe none of them do it.
It seems pretty good.
Yep. But that, we stopped talking about CP numbers. But so we had the S tier, a little over 9,000 CP equivalent earned. And I think these numbers only really matter in relation to themselves or to each other. But we had what I'm going to say is more like the A plus tier of Chin Pao and Charizard Pidgeot, where both of those are getting right around 6,000. So they're like 70% as good.
Yep.
And then we have the rest of the A tier. And I really feel like Lugia kind of deserves to be grouped in here too. It feels like they arbitrarily cut off at 4,000, but we've got $45.99 for Arctina. We've got $44.34 for Ancient Box, and then Lugia is right there at $39.79. So basically at 4K as well.
Yep.
So I think Lugia is at least B+, if not actually in the A tier of Japan results. Because after that, then we've got 4 decks that are right around 2,000. And I don't think Lugia deserves to be grouped in with that. The relationship doesn't fit right to me. But the rest of the B tier, or maybe the B- tier, if Lugia is B+, it's rounded out by Goldingo with playing Prime Catcher, Turbo Lost Box playing Prime Catcher, the Great Tusk milling deck that Nate's going to try, I'm sure, as soon as he gets his hands on the cards, and an updated version of Roaring Moon, which is also playing Prime Catcher. The Great Tusk is not, it's playing the Hero Cape, right?
Yeah, it's playing Hero's Cape. They have 100 more HP. It's like a wall, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then, so C tier is defined as decks that are within a stone's throw of 1,000 CP equivalent, which means they're roughly just over, like they're 10 to 15% as successful as our S tier Charizard Bibarel combo. And there we have, finally, Lost Tina with the Prime Catcher, Gardevoir with the Hero's Cape, Snorlax Stall with the Hero's Cape, Raging Bolt with Prime Catcher, and Sablezard with the Radiant Charizard, again with Prime Catcher. I
might honestly also think that, I mean, it might deserve to be in C tier, but like Lost Tina seems like it should be in C+ tier, and the rest should be C-.
I don't know, because if you're moving Tina up, like there's a good 700 CP difference between, like it's around 1,200, which Guardia is also, and then we were right around 2K with the ones we talked about for B tier. So I think C tier fits for Lost Tina, but I think you could go so far as to say C- for Raging Bolt at 801, and for Sablezard at 768, because then in D+ tier is Future Box, and
it's pretty close to Sablezard.
Yeah, it's a stone's throw away. It's closer to Sablezard than Sablezard is to Lost Tina, for instance. And then we've got an Arceus box that looks like it's playing Vulpix V-Star and Goodra V-Star and just trying to do shenanigans to deny knockouts. It's also playing Hero's Cape.
Yeah, it's like a wall type. Like they going with Vulpix to hopefully just hope that Charizard doesn't play Prime Catcher Boss in the same turn.
Yeah.
And then, which I see that can happen more often than I think now.
Yeah. Maybe more often than those players thought too. And then we're rounded out with Miraidon at 519 playing Prime Catcher, and Arceus Armarouge at 330 CP, which is like 6 decks did well, maybe 8 out of all of Japan.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It's definitely a rogue deck. So, and that's the thing to bear in mind too. These are tiered based on how the decks performed, but each deck is gate kept by how many people are playing it, right? you don't have anywhere near as many people playing Arc Box deny knockouts with the Hero's Cape as you have playing Charizard Bibarel. So you're automatically going to get lower end results with the Arc Box, even if it were able to produce the same level of finishes, just because fewer people play it. That said, I think that this is still a pretty good look at how things are. I'd be curious if we had access to another slide that showed the actual breakdown for what's played how often, but we don't. And I don't blame Omnipoke for not, gathering data at that level, because that's basically probably impossible to really get. And it's fantastic that they've been able to put this much information together. And it sort of falls in line with what a lot of our post-rotation expectations were, that losing Path hurts Lost Tina a lot, that losing Baby Gardevoir hurts Gardevoir a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of expected Snorlax to do a bit better than it seems to be doing.
I mean, in Japan, most things are best of one, so if it were best of three, I feel like Snorlax would be in a higher spot.
Yeah, that's true. Now then, we've gone over all that. You've heard about every deck. You've had the graphic on the screen. It's going to go away now. And now we're going to talk about how we think things are going to finish over in the Japan Champions League. So this event is happening in, I had the name of it a second ago, Fukuoka in Japan. And Nate and I have both, so here in the US, and basically all of current TCPI, we cut down to the top 8. We've been doing that for a long time, and there's people talking about maybe we'll switch it up here pretty soon, but we'll see if that happens. Well, in Japan, though, they've already switched it up. They've been cutting to top 16 for a while now, and that's where they're cutting, obviously, in this upcoming tournament, or I wouldn't be talking about it in the way I'm talking about it. So, normally we predict where things are going to fall within the top 8 structure. But now we've got a top 16 to deal with. So Nate and I have 16 different decks. Not always different. We have a few, each of us, I think, have a few repeats. But 16 decks, 16 spots that we have declared where we think the decks will finish. And it's again categorized like tiers. So there's 8 decks that'll be top 16, 4 decks that are just top 8, and then 4 others that are top 4, second place, and first place, respectively.
Like if you're spot on, that'd be way too crisp right there.
Dude, I get to claim like king status for all time if I was spot on with like the entirety of this. Meta mastery for real, yo.
For real.
But
all right. You want me to start?
Sure.
Okay, so for my number 1 pick, I put Ancient Box. It's just basically Lost Box, but more ancient. It's just very powerful. It can hit high numbers, and it's a very, very good deck. For number 2, I put for the finals, I put Charizard Bibarel. It's been proving itself over its past few weeks of meta. Okay. For top 4, I've placed Golden Go and Great Tusk Mill. I feel like Mill can win some rounds pretty quickly if you're milling 4 cards each turn.
I mean, okay. I believe you a little bit. I don't put a ton of faith in Mill. I never have. And then I'm proven wrong every now and then. And then I come and show people, well, but my decks don't lose time.
And Golden Go is a pretty good pick always. It got top 4 in the last Champions League. So, might as well put it in the same spot. For my top 8, I have 4 decks. Charizard Pidgeot, just very consistent. Mm-hmm. It sets up most of the time. Like, I want to say 70 to 80% of the time. Chimpao, it currently just won regional in Europe recently, so pretty good as the moment. And plus rotation, no path. Pretty well placed. Arceus Tina, with it being able to hit 330 and path is gone, I think it's more powerful than it was. Boss Box Radiant Zard, with all these, evolution decks coming around, the TMs that are played usually can prove itself and make it have a good placement. Going into my top 16, the last 8 decks, I put Future Box. I've actually played with this deck in IRL, and I enjoy this deck. And not totally placing it because of how fun it is, but it has true potential. I put my first Roaring Moon in top 16. Roaring Moon's still pretty good, but with the new tool that has more buff for like EXs, like the tool card expect. Weird, I forgot the name, but overall, it makes Roaring Moon be less played. And I put Gardevoir. Gardevoir still has some viable attackers like Fluttermane and like Screamtail. Pretty good overall. Still consistent deck.
Don't forget about Drifloon.
I, I, yeah, Drifloon for sure.
You wanted to argue, and then you realized you shouldn't.
I put up my second Charizard Pidgeot in the top 16. One being in top 4, one in top 16. Like I said before, it's just a very consistent deck. It has one thing that the Barrel Engine does not. Is just a card that can search your deck for pretty much anything. But that can also be a bad thing for having a 2-prize liability. And I put my second Ancient Box because I like the deck a bit too much. Then Turbo Lost Box, pretty consistent. And then another Chien-Pao.
Yep. Cool. Well, I'm going to run through mine. I'm going to go a little faster than Nate because we just went through the whole, like basically every deck that either of us is listening, we've already talked about on some level, and then Nate summarized most of them again. So I'm just going to blaze through the list. I'm going to hold true to the results that we saw from that Omnipoke put together. And I'm going to say Charizard Bibarel wins it all. Then Chien-Pao comes in second. And then we start to see a mixture of some of the other decks coming in. So third and fourth, I say Charizard Pidgeot and Lugia. Then 5th through 8th is where I have my first repeat. I say Chien-Pao again. And then also an Arctina, a Goldingo, and a Roaring Moon. And then 9th through 16th, I gave you a little bit of a nod, Nate, and said Great Tusk could make top 16. I don't think it's going further than top 16. I think that the caliber of players that are making it to top 16 are going to know how to deal with Great Tusk. They'll have tested the matchups over the last few weeks. They'll be ready for it. So Great Tusk, Guardy, Ancient Box, and Future Box, another Charizard Bibarel, another Charizard Pidgeot, Turbo Lost Box, and Raging Bolt. I want Raging Bolt to work. I have theories on ways to make it work that don't revolve around Sandy Shocks, but I'm not going to talk about them yet. Because I also don't know if it's actually any better. But
yep.
Yeah, that's my run through. I think I have a few more repetitions than you did, maybe.
I think you repeated 2 decks. I think I did 2 as well. I don't really.
I had 2 Chien-Pao. I had both types of Charizard in there twice.
Okay.
So I've repeated 3.
That's cool. But yeah, our points will sum up next week for sure, and maybe the winner will get a cookie. We still don't know.
Yeah. By the way, Connor's been really busy. He's working a bunch and trying to go back to school. So props to him. Going to school is important. But so he's going to be out of the picture, periodically coming back in. We have some ideas for ways that we're going to try to change things up that hopefully will lead to some really interesting content. So if possible, we'll start that next week. But if that's not possible, then we'll start the week after.
Yep.
And I think with that, we're ready. Are you ready?
I am ready.
I am ready. You know what time it is? It's Same City Fun Time. And once again today, we're going to do pack battles. I've got my pack of Paradox Rift.
And I have my pack, the Scarlet and Violet base set.
So let's go.
All right, do you want to rock, paper, scissors on who shows their Pokemon first?
Um, are we for the first one and then we just alternate, or?
Yeah.
All right, we can do that.
All right. So, okay. 1, 2, 3, shoot like that.
Yeah, we both did scissors.
Okay, you go first, I guess.
Okay.
Unless you want to go second.
I honestly don't think it matters at all. So
All right. Well,
I'll go first.
do you want to guess my energy?
Psychic.
It is psychic.
Oh, okay. I was like, this is stupid, and then I got it right, and I'm like, I am the smartest man alive. So you want to guess my energy?
It is grass.
Let's go. Nicely done. Okay.
All right.
I think that was a tie.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Next Pokemon. I have a.
You have a Varoom. I have a Mantike.
And yours has 30 HP.
Yeah.
Mine has 80.
Yeah, I think you won that.
Look at this Pokemon.
Hey, we switched it. I'm up to a Gabite with 100.
Magikarp with 30.
So I won that one. And ooh, Minion
Barely.
with 70. Taking out the 60 HP Magnemite.
Oh no.
Doublade with 90. Beating up the Tarantula. Dondozo with 160. Take that, Santa Clara. Your 140 is nothing. We both tie. Veluza not able to keep up with Staraptor.
Okay.
So 100, but he hits for weakness though.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
I don't think it is. Oh no, and I lose again.
Oh, I got a Fido.
You super won that one.
I got this. Oh.
Nope, I got it by 10.
You did get it by 10. All right.
So going by HP, I won 5 and you won 3? No, 4.
All right. Well, it was a close game.
Going by rarity, I think, or value of the pack, I think you won with that character rare.
For sure. This is definitely going on TCG Player.
All right. Well, did I win last time too?
I think you did. I think you're 2-0 right now.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I'll take it. All right. Well, with that, we are donezo with the Dondozo that took it down. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please leave a like if you want. But even if you don't want to, please subscribe because it helps us a lot.
Oh, yeah. It helps out a lot.
And we will see you next time on the Same 60 podcast, possibly with a new content structure.
Peace.
I'm not